So you're the family member of an addicted loved one, and you've reached the point where you realize that nothing that you've done up until now has been effective, that your addicted loved one is unable or unwilling to admit they have a problem or do something about that problem. You're in a situation where the family is in a crisis situation and nothing's worked. What do you do? Well, this video is going to show you what to do. And it begins with making a call, and I know that that's a very heavy phone to pick up at times like this. When you're in crisis situation and the word intervention is presented to you by either family or friends, or you've seen it on the internet or you've watched the show on TV, it's still a very difficult phone to pick up and make that call to people like me. But this is what happens when you do make that call. And this is how you get the process started, with taking action to get your loved one the help that they need, to create the desperation in your addicted loved one, to give yourself some freedom from the bondage of their addiction. Interventionists cannot guarantee that your loved one will get sober. We can't guarantee that your addicted loved one will get the help that they need, that they'll admit into treatment the day of the intervention. Statistically, 93% of the time, they will enter treatment the day of the intervention. Of the 7% that do not, typically within a couple of weeks, a couple of months, sometimes a little longer, but if the family maintains boundaries and does not falter and works as a team and follows directions, their life will change. A role of an interventionist when you make that call is to give you information, to give you some guidance. When families call me and they've picked up that heavy cinder block feeling phone and they call someone like me and they tell the story of why they're calling, they've reached that conclusion that nothing's really worked. And my goal on the phone is to not sell them an intervention. It's not to, talk them into this program or give them a line of crap. It's to give them some hope. Because families, when they call, have lost all hope. They don't see any light at the end of the tunnel. They don't see a way out. So my only goal, and I don't know about other interventionists, but my only goal is to provide them with some hope that it is possible, that there is a way out, that regardless of what their loved one chooses to do, they can have freedom from their addiction, from their loved one's addiction. So you call and you give the story, the background. I can tell you that your story is not unique. It's very common. The addicted individuals, we operate out of a very small playbook, a very short playbook, and our defenses are the same. And it really doesn't matter how old we are, what background we're from, whether we're white, black, yellow, brown. Doesn't matter. Our defenses are generally the same. We say the same things. We do the same things. We wreak havoc on our families the same. So you're talking to an individual who has seen it time and time and time again. You're talking to an individual that is now, because I've been in your addicted loved one's shoes and now I'm on the other side. And because we operate from a very small playbook, I know the playbook. So you're talking to an individual who's giving you suggestions, who is now 10 steps ahead of your loved one's addiction. Where family members, just by the nature of the illness, is always 10 steps behind their loved one's addiction. So when you bring on a professional, what you do is you go immediately from 10 steps behind your loved one's addiction to 10 steps ahead. And that's powerful. That is productive. There you stand a chance, a damn good chance, at beating this addiction and putting a stop to the horrors and the chaos and the confusion that's wreaking havoc on your family and on your peace. So what does an interventionist do? What I do is ethically, I'm not going to tell a family where to send their loved one. Ethically, we cannot do that. We can point you in the direction of programs that do good work. We can narrow down the search. Ethically, like I say, I cannot say, hey, go to this place. We take a look at it. If you're dependent on insurance, then we have to look at programs that take that insurance. I have a duty as an interventionist to steer you away from less than stellar programming. And believe me, unfortunately, there's a lot of programs out here that are just strictly crap. They're just crap programs. They don't treat addiction effectively. All they're after is your insurance card, and they cycle them in and out like cattle. And people go in and out and in and out and in and out and never get well, and a lot of them die. I have a duty to steer you away from those programs, and I will. When you bring on a professional, an interventionist, we work for you. We work for no one else. We are your advocate. We are there to guide you into what exactly to do, what not to do, how to do it, when to do it, and why you're going to do it. We are there to help you identify some things in yourself and other family members that may could use an adjustment. Some behaviors that, as a result of addiction or family trauma, that it's not working in your life. And give you some strategies to put in place that can help you overcome that. To put you in contact with other professionals that can help you with some codependency, with some enabling, with maybe some of your own childhood stuff that you're bringing to the table with your addicted loved one. We're there to help you change communication by using the power of the word, helping you identify the power of the word. You think about it. In Nazi Germany, 1939, a lunatic with nothing more than the power of the word, millions of people went to their death. Power of the word. Families are coming to the table talking their addicted loved one over and over and over again, talking about, I can't keep doing this. I can't. How many times have you said that as a family member of an addicted loved one? How many times have you used the word can't? Be careful about that. Think about the power of the word. Because your experience is showing you and your addicted loved one that not only that you can, but you do. I remember my father would open up his billfold talking about, I can't keep doing this, as he's handing me money, or as he's filling up my vehicle, or as he's bailing me out. I can't keep doing this. I can't keep doing this. But what it's showing me is, yes, you can, and yes, you do. And I'm going to manipulate that. And I'm no different from any other addicted individual. So I helped them start changing the power of the word and how they're speaking to their addicted loved one. Start using words like will not. I had a program for men here in Richmond, and it was an extended care program. And when I would tell the guys, I would say, I'm going to try to go to the gym with you guys today. Guess who didn't show up to the gym? Me. But when I would tell those guys, I am going to meet you at the gym today, guess who was at the gym with them? I was. Because it's the power of the word. It's not only what I'm telling them, it's what I'm telling myself. I'm making a commitment. So we help families with strategies such as that, about changing how they're talking to their loved one and how they're communicating with their loved one in real time. The intervention, when we're hired, is not about I just show up one day, dressed in boots and jeans and come in and say some profound shit and get their loved one off to a treatment program. That's not how it works. We're not there to have everyone in the family point fingers at their struggling loved one and say, you're an addict, you're an alcoholic, you got to go get well, go to treatment, you got to go to treatment, you suck. That's not what an intervention is about. We're here to unite this family under one purpose: to stop addiction from wreaking havoc in their lives. We have to unite everyone. We have to build a corral, so to speak, around this addicted individual, whom I like to talk about their addiction like it's a wild Mustang. The wild Mustang that runs around the Great Plains back in the day, in the old Western days. If you picture this, it makes sense. And if you're experiencing an addicted loved one, it will make sense to you. You'll identify with this. You've got an addicted loved one acting like a wild Mustang. Their addiction is playing its part perfectly. It's doing exactly what it's designed to do, and that's create chaos and run amok. And that's what a wild Mustang does in the Mustang's element. And the families have no corral, and they've got this saddle called sobriety and responsibility and maturity and consideration that they're trying to get onto this wild Mustang that is addiction. But you got to remember, you're in the Mustang's element. So the Mustang is running by, doing what it does with no boundaries, no limits. And you throw this saddle on the Mustang, and it just bucks it right off. And in the meantime, you're wearing yourself out and everyone else around you. And nothing's working. So as I say, as the interventionist, we're going to build a corral around this Mustang, and I use the family members and friends and people of influence that have an impact on this addicted individual's life. We're going to bring them all together, and we're going to build a corral around this individual. And what that does, it removes that addicted individual's ability to operate, much like the Mustang of the Great West. You watch any John Wayne movie, any Clint Eastwood Western movie, it'll show you that. You'll never get a Mustang saddle and without a corral. But you build a corral strong enough around that Mustang, and the corral never moves. It sits there solid, united, joined together with firm boundaries. And as you remove that Mustang's ability to operate, again, any John Wayne movie, any Clint Eastwood Western will show you, you'll get that Mustang saddled every time. Every single time. So we help you plan that out. During an intervention, what's said or what's not said can be critical to the success of an intervention. So for that reason, we give family members letter formats for everyone to write a letter using that format. And other than reading the letter that you write, that we go over during the rehearsal before the intervention, you're not going to say a whole lot at all. You're not there to have a big discussion. You're not there to plead with addiction. You're not there to negotiate with addiction, because if you negotiate with addiction, you will lose every single time. So there's no negotiation. You're there to state your boundary. The intervention is just as much for the family as it is for the addicted individual. You're not there to beg and plead for him to go to treatment. You're there to express to them in a safe environment where they're positioned to hear their family, where you're able to express to them your boundaries of what you will not allow in your life any longer. You're making that corral. We cut out a lot of the dialogue that typically takes place when families are just, talking to their loved one on a whim of, hey, you need to go to treatment, and what's the matter with you, and why can't you stop? We shut all that down. If the addicted individual has something to say to an individual, then we're more than likely going to answer for that individual, or else we'll look at you, we'll give you the nod to either respond or not. Most of the time, we're going to do all the responding. You're there to just read your letter. And the letter cannot be shameful. The letter's not to be hateful. The letter is also to acknowledge some of the some behaviors that you have done as a family member that have enabled their illness, that has caused you chaos, and that you're no longer willing to do. And you're there to express your desire for what you wish the relationship to be once they sober up. And you're there to finally set really hard boundaries about how your relationship with their addiction is going to change immediately should they choose not to go to treatment. It's not the family's job to talk their loved one into going to treatment. That is my job as the interventionist. And all of the work leading up to that day, the day of the intervention, is around that. Is around looking at boundaries, looking at enabling, looking at the family system. We're helping you look at programs. What questions to ask when you're talking to a treatment program? Like, what does your family component look like? What does your family services look like? Do we get a family therapist? What does visitation look like? What does your aftercare look like? What's your phone policy? Because the last thing you want is your addicted loved one to go to treatment and then be able to hold you emotionally hostage on the telephone every half hour through the phone in the treatment center in the hallway. I think some of the best things a treatment program can do to increase their retention rates and to also improve outcomes is to take that phone that's in the hallway of a treatment center and toss it in a dumpster. You want to ask questions, and we let you know what questions to ask. We're here to be helpful. The night before the intervention is called the rehearsal. And that's where we all get together, and that's where everything comes to play. That's where you start to feel your power. You're going to be fearful leading up to that. You're going to be fearful during that. You have to remember that fear is a big liar. It's going to show you worst case scenario. Some of the common fears that are asked me by family members that they're experiencing is they're scared to death their loved one's going to run out of the room and go kill themselves. Now, I can't tell you that your loved one is not going to go kill themselves. I'm not that powerful. I can't guarantee that. I can only go by what my experiences show me. And over the 700 interventions that I have done, that has not happened one time. not once. Yet every single family that I work with, that is their fear. I always tell the family, never panic until you see the interventionist panic, and we're not going to panic, so there's no need to panic. You've got someone that takes the guesswork out of all of this. No longer do you have to throw darts at the wall saying, hey, maybe this will work, or take a stab at this, maybe that'll work. Well, maybe we'll do this. Well, Uncle Billy said do that. Maybe we should do this. Well, we'll just do this. Well, Grandma doesn't want to do this. It's all chaotic. We take all of that away. Just simply follow directions. It's that simple. And it's worth it. It's worth it. Life is short, meant to be free of this, right? Meant to be free of this. Also, our role as an interventionist is if the individual does not go to treatment the day of the intervention, that is not called a failure. An intervention only fails if the family goes back to doing old behaviors. If the individual refuses to go to treatment that day, like in my case, when I take on a family, I'll work with that family until my agreement with the family is until their individual has completed an inpatient treatment program, no matter how long that takes. So if they refuse to go to treatment the day of the intervention, I'm there to help them communicate with their addicted loved one, right? No one is to, go rogue and go Lone Ranger with their addicted loved one after the intervention. It just goes into phase 2. It's a rolling intervention at that point. It's phase 2 of the intervention. The individual reaches out typically to the one that has enabled them the most, the weakest link, and tries to manipulate, tries to play the victim. And that individual is not to respond. That individual is to only respond, we love you, you deserve the best that this world has to offer, are you ready to get help? And if that individual catches that family member off guard one day, and has them on their heels, and that individual, that family member, is not strong enough to say no, and remember that no is a complete sentence, it's not strong enough to say no, they are to tell them, I'm going to have to talk to the rest of the team and get back to you. Let me think on this. Let me talk to the rest of the team, and I'll get back to you with an answer. That lets that addicted individual know that they are no longer acting alone, that the family is united, that they're working with a professional, and that there's strength in numbers. It's very, very powerful. It's very, very powerful. So the addicted individual agrees to go to treatment the day of the intervention. What happens? Well, we pack a bag. They get in a car with us. We don't have family members transport their loved one to treatment. We do that for them. We want to make a separation as quickly as possible between the family member, because they have their healing to do, and the addicted individual. We transport them to treatment and make sure they get admitted that day. And if for some reason they can't get admitted that day, we're with them, and we're in a hotel, and we're keeping everything as it should be, and getting them admitted the next day. So we really take all of the guesswork out of the situation. And again, I'll say it again, you can't say it enough. All we ask for is a family that's willing to follow directions. So I hope you found this helpful. There is a solution to this madness called addiction and the effects it has on the family. There absolutely is a solution to it. And all it takes is you picking up that heavy phone and calling a professional, whether it be me or another interventionist. I mean, get somebody involved. You don't have to live like this any longer. The next episode, episode 3 of this series, recovery, the process of recovery from addiction, is going to talk about what to expect once your loved one gets to treatment, and how to keep them in treatment, and what to do after treatment. So you're going to find that interesting, and you guys stay tuned. There's more to come, and I appreciate you taking a listen.